Hey guys, Aaron Cybertron Zhang here, and today I just wanted to break down some of the most important information that came out from Pokemon's announcement yesterday regarding the VGC 2016 to 2017 season. This was information that we were all waiting for a very long time, and the 2016-2017 season has already started, but this information is really important in terms of planning your season out, and I think it's just really helpful whether you're new to the game or whether you're a seasoned veteran, because the circuit has seen so much change from previous years, and I think it's important to kind of break down everything. This is basically the start to a lot of new content that I want to do for the channel. I think this next year is going to be the biggest year by far for competitive Pokemon and for VGC, and I really want to do my part in getting as many players into the game as possible and really helping them get better. So hopefully you guys enjoyed this video and find it helpful. If you do, please leave a like on the video and give me any feedback. Also share with anyone that might be interested in VGC. And if you have no idea who I am and you're completely new to the VGC scene, welcome to my channel. My name's Aaron Cybertron Zhang. I've been a longtime VGC competitor, and I commentated the US National and World Championships this last year. Also qualified for 7 different World Championships, won a bunch of regionals and nationals, and got 3rd at Worlds in 2013. So just some credibility so you know who I am. I really want to help more players get into VGC, and I think this next year is going to be so exciting. So without further ado, let's get into this. Once again, if there are certain sections you're interested in, check out the timestamps in the description below. So first of all, what is VGC if you have no idea what it is? VGC stands for the Video Game Championships, and it's the rule set that the Pokemon Company creates and uses every year. It's not related to Smogon rules, which some of you guys may be familiar with. It's double battles always, and as of right now, we are still under the VGC 2016 rule set. So if you watch the World Championships back in August, we're still using the same rule set. Now, this is one of the first big announcements. In previous years, the rule set would kind of change when it was January 1st, so, VGC 2016 came around when it was January 1st, even though we knew the rules beforehand. This year, it's different. Sun and Moon is being released, I think, just at the end of November, and the rules actually go into effect starting December 1st, and the reason for that is because there are actually a lot of events in December. So, right when you get Sun and Moon, you're going to want to start training up because events are going to start up pretty shortly after. So keep that in mind. We don't know what the VGC 2017 rule set is yet, obviously, because Sun and Moon haven't come out yet, and obviously when the rules are announced, I will be talking about that and making as many videos as possible about potential strategies, battles, and team building guides. So look forward to that. But yeah, VGC 2017 starts January 1st. VGC split into 3 age groups, juniors, seniors, and masters, so, you don't have a 9-year-old going up against a 23-year-old. Makes it really exciting, actually, and there's a lot of cool storylines that we see going into a lot of the big events because of the age groups. So, if you've got a little brother or, want your siblings to play, they might be in different age groups, and it's a great way. I actually got into VGC with my brother, or I got my brother into VGC, and he was in a different age group, and we really bonded through that. So, it's really nice that Pokemon does that. No other competitive game really focuses on age groups. VGC has live events run throughout the world, so you can actually go to real-life Pokemon tournaments and compete. Ultimately ends in the World Championships every August. This next year it's going to be in Anaheim, California. And, why do you play VGC? Because of the community and because you get to win some pretty cool stuff. Money, prizes, championship points, and of course, glory. So, hopefully that's a good summary for what VGC is if you have no idea, have no context. Now I'm going to kind of break down all the events that VGC has. And so we've got online competitions, premier challenges, mid-season showdowns, regionals, internationals, and worlds. So, if you played VGC before, a lot of this is going to look familiar. The only thing that's different is nationals is no longer really around and internationals are a thing. Now I think that nationals could be run in countries where there's no tournament support whatsoever. So they're not completely eliminated, but they shouldn't be looked at as the same nationals as we had previously. And these international events, some of you guys may have heard about the information dropped already, but I'm going to go into more detail later. So basically, this kind of goes from smallest to biggest events, and you see that I've also highlighted a BFL. So the BFL is the best finish limit, and I'll talk a little bit more about these in each individual event, but basically, you get points from each of these events that go towards qualification for Worlds, and you can only get so many points from each event. So, if your BFL is 4, that means you can get your top 4 finishes from those kind of events count. Any more don't count. So I'll break that down a little bit more for each individual event, but yeah, basically, you've got one way of playing online, and that's certain sanctioned online competitions, and a ton of ways to compete in real life. So, first of all, online competitions. typically there are a few every season. In the past few years, it's been 3, and they've been called international challenges. They're run on the Pokemon Global link, and you basically, I think, were able to play like 15 games for 3 days, so 45 games in total, or maybe it's 20. But yeah, you're limited to the number of games you can play. If you disconnect, it counts as a loss. If you've played any Global link, whether it's Battle Spot or one of these tournaments, you know how these things work. It basically features players all around the world, and there's no best finish limit. So I actually really recommend that you guys compete in these when they do come out, because it's a great way to get practice. It only takes a couple of days, and you can play whenever you want. It's not like you need to play during a certain time period. As long as it's within those 3 days, you're good. So really, really recommend these because of the fact that there's no best finish limit. Previously, I think they were tied to Premier Challenges in terms of the best finish limit, but this year they're completely separate. So you really should just play in as many as you can. And so let's break it down in terms of championship points. Earlier, I mentioned that you get championship points from doing well at events, and these championship points basically leads towards a qualification for the World Championships. It can also help you get free travel to events if you get enough and are placing high enough. So for these online competitions, it's pretty top heavy. Basically, top 256 players get points, and the better you do, the more points you get. Not much of a surprise. It is very, very difficult to get first or second at these events because there's so many good players, and you never know who has the highest rating. I think like top 32, top 16 is definitely very doable. I've been in those ranges before. Back in Gen 5, I was on the higher spectrum occasionally as well. These are definitely very difficult events, actually, and it takes a fair amount of skill to perform at the very highest level, but getting top 256 or 120 is definitely doable, and that's a, I wouldn't say free couple of points, but those are definitely points you can gain. So you should definitely keep your eye out for announcements on when the online competitions will be, because once again, it's just a great way to get practice. So moving away from online play is Premier Challenges, and this is kind of the first small local level event with small championship point playouts. One of the biggest differences from previous years is that this year it's split into 3 series, and there's a BFL of 2 per series. So previous years, you could play like all 5 Premier Challenges in a month, win all of them, and then you wouldn't have to go to any more, basically. But this time, Pokemon kind of wants you to go to more throughout different time periods, so you can't just stack them all at once. So you see that they're split into autumn, winter, and spring. You basically want to get 2 really good finishes in each of those series to basically maximize the amount of points you can get. And Premier Challenges typically are kind of small level events, right? Like they're encouraged for local play, and typically, you really go to just hang out with other people and get championship points. The CP payout for these are important. Last year, you could actually get half your invite from Premier Challenges. This year, not going to be nearly as easy, but still very important and a great way to get some points just at a local level. And if you actually pass 40 players, there are better Premier Challenges in terms of championship point payout. So once again, we look at championship points, and this might all be a little bit confusing right now, but I'll break it down later in terms of how it fits into the context of qualifying for Worlds. So for Premier Challenges, you can see that first of all, there's a new thing called kicker, and so we've had kickers before, but they didn't have that on the online challenge. What a kicker means is if you pass that amount of players, then CP will go down to that level. So let's say right now you see placement second, you need a kicker of 4. So if you have 3 players, second place is not going to get any points. Similarly, placement top 4 get 10 points, as you see on the chart on the left. If your tournament has 7 people, then the top 4 aren't going to get any points. So these kickers are important because if you go to an event with not enough people, you have to realize you might not be getting championship points for your placement. So if the Premier Challenge is under 40 players, you mainly want to focus on winning or even getting top 4. 6 and 2 is obviously minimal amount. I mean, any amount of points is good, but it's very top heavy, especially with 2014 and 10. And if the Premier Challenges passes 40 players, typically you see these at a lot of PCs right before big events like regionals, then it distributes a little bit more nicely. You get 20 points for first, you see 18, 16, 14, 12, and there are no kickers for those because it's already guaranteed to hit 40 plus players. So basically, PCs, you want to go to as many as you can if they're near you. I wouldn't stress too much if there are none near you, because then you should focus on regionals and bigger events. But these are a great way to just kind of meet the local community, to practice, and to get some championship points. I know tournament organizers sometimes give really cool prizes as well. You should always check, obviously, with your tournament organizer. But these are local level events and happen very frequently. So these are, for some players, sometimes still inaccessible, but definitely the most frequent tournament of all of them. So the next level of tournament is mid-season showdowns. Pokemon introduced these tournaments last year, and they were kind of mixed in terms of results and attendance. They're less frequent than PCs, and they're kind of meant to be, but they're definitely more frequent than regionals. They're run throughout the year, but right now we actually don't have any information on when they're going to start and timing, so keep your eyes open for that. Their championship point payout is a lot higher than Premier Challenges, and last year they actually shared the best finish limit with regionals, and they gave out a lot of points. So a lot of players actually would just go to mid-seasons instead of regionals and get a lot of points. This year, they're actually completely separate. So you can go to 4 mid-seasons, and however well you do at those won't affect your points from regionals. And that's a really big deal because the World's bar is basically higher this year. So Worlds is harder to qualify for. You need more championship points. And so the fact that mid-seasons and regionals are split now means that they can be really important if you're trying to qualify for Worlds. They have the individual best finish limit of 4. Similarly, like Premier Challenges, there's no established pricing. It really comes down to the organizer, but the championship points are constant regardless of which one you go to. So, as you can tell, the championship point structure here is a lot top heavy and really important. I mean, like 50 for first is a lot. For reference, a World's invite in North American Masters is 500 points, so 50 gets you a tenth of there. But even, 45, 40, 35, 30, those are all pretty good amounts, and you're guaranteed those in top 16. So it's a pretty good amount, and obviously you have kickers, 64, 128, 256. For mid-season, I really wouldn't expect more than around 100 players, maybe 200 under, but a lot of them last year were on the really small spectrum. I think like between 20 to 50 or 60. So you can, obviously definitely expect points to if you place between 1 and 16, and then top 32 could be likely as well. Either way though, these are really, really important. I actually didn't go to any last year because I had enough points from regionals, but this year I'm definitely going to look to go to a couple because, the fact that they're separate from regionals means that's just more opportunity to gain points. So I would probably try to hit at least 2 or 3 up if they're in my area. You're definitely going to have to kind of see where these events are, and I'll teach you later how to search up events. But yeah, keep your eyes open for these because Premier Challenges are already happening. Mid-seasons, we currently don't know when they're allowed to start yet. So that's basically a rundown on mid-season showdowns, sometimes called MSSs. Now we get into some of the nitty-gritty and some of the big new announcements. So regional championships, they have been around in competitive Pokemon VGC since the very beginning, but it is very different this year. We've seen a huge restructuring to how regionals are. Each regional now offers around $50,000 in prize money between the trading card game and the video game, and they're large tier events that basically occur around the world, all around the year as well. Now, entry fees are being implemented. They were around last year, so you can probably expect an entry fee of around $20 to $30. You typically get stuff with that entry fee, so it's not like you're just paying complete money and not getting anything. You get a promotional card, playmat often, and whatever else the Pokemon kind of distributes. So the playmats are pretty cool. And that way you feel like, at least you're paying for something. The best finish limit has increased from 3 to 4. So, first of all, last year it was 3 combined with mid-seasons. Now it's 4 separate from mid-seasons. So basically Pokemon is encouraging you to go to more events. And, you definitely may want to do that. However, if you perform at a very high level at a lot of these events, then you still don't have to worry out very much about that. One of the biggest changes to regionals is that there's now prize money to the top finishers, and I'll break that down very shortly. That is based on attendance and how many players you get, and there is no prize money if any age division attendance has 33 fewer players, so or 32 or fewer players, I believe. So you really want to break that mark. And regionals have a very, very large championship point payout. Those were crucial. I think like back in 2015 when I was second in championship points in North America, my regional finishes were like first, fourth, and top 8. So these are really, really important, and you really want to try to go to a couple of these and get those higher level points. So here's the championship point structure. You've seen the ones for the previous events. You can get a whole whopping 200 amount of points if you win one of these. Even, all the way to top 8, like 160, 120, 80. Those are still pretty good amounts, especially when you consider your World's invite is 500. And you can get points from 4 of these, not even including mid-seasons. So you do see that the kicker does come into play here as well. Regionals last year, attendance really ranged all over the place, but throughout the years, we've had regionals with over 500 players. We've had regionals with just 60 players. I think with Sun and Moon, it's going to be a little bit more consistent. I think a lot more players will be interested in playing, but you should at least expect, I would say, 128 plus players. Maybe for the ones before Sun and Moon, not as much, but I really think that Sun and Moon is just going to draw a lot of people into the game who are interested in it. But yeah, I mean, regionals, highly recommend you go to these. They're very high level events, and it's just a great way to get more practice. A lot of top players are going to be at a lot of these events as well, so a great way to meet some of your favorite players from around the country and the world. In terms of prizing, so this is one of the biggest deals. For reference, in previous years, if you won a regional, like I won a regional last year, I got a DS, a trophy, and 2 boxes of cards. I think this year, the boxes of cards are still there to stay, the trophy's still there to stay, and now you actually get some pretty nice prize money. So basically, based off the amount of players, the pricing kind of changes. So the more players you have, the more money is introduced into the pool. So with numbers last year, I mean, you should probably expect regionals between the 65, 128, and 129 to 226 range, especially in North America. I think when Sun and Moon comes out, it's actually very likely we'll get a decent amount, or maybe a lot, in the 227 to 499 range. But basically, the money is still very, very top heavy. You basically need to get top 2, top 4, top 8 to really get anything. Maybe top 16 if we break 500 players on an event. And, what I really have my eye on is the $1,000 from first place, and then the 1,000 and 3,000 from first and second, from 227 to 499. So, obviously very few players are going to actually end up winning money, but that's still really cool. And I believe they're getting trading card game packs all the way down to top 16, or maybe top 32 as well. And that's another, incentive to play. But yeah, I mean, you can actually win a good amount of money now if you're doing well at regionals, which is super exciting because I've played in so many regionals throughout the years and the pricing has just gone worse and worse. So I'm really excited to see that it has gone back up. So, however many players your regionals get in your division, that's going to affect how much money you could potentially end up winning. So, as of right now, the United States has actually announced its full regional schedule. We're still waiting on all the other international countries, and when information comes out on that, I'll let you guys know. I'll also give you guys the resources to basically check yourself. But basically, there are 4 regionals that are going to be playing under the 2016 rules, and then, of course, Sun and Moon's going to come out, and then 2017 goes into effect. So, for 2016, Phoenix is actually very soon. I'll actually be at that regional, so if you're there, definitely come say hello. Orlando is in mid-October, November, Philadelphia, and then Fort Wayne, late November. One other thing I should note is that previously we had regionals in 3 seasons. I think it was like fall, winter, and spring. This time Pokemon wants to basically have 2 per month, so you can really travel to any, and there's really very few, if any, conflicts. You can see the 2017 kind of schedule as well. Those will be using the 2017 rule set, Sun and Moon, and you can see all the respective cities. I will link the regionals kind of page below. It's also in one of the slides in the future, so you can get more information on these individual events and their respective locations. Should know that these typically take place over a weekend, so plan to compete both Saturday and Sunday, not just one day, even though I currently have one date listed. And if you're at another country, outside of the US, check more because information is still rolling out for those regions. So, regionals, big change. Second big change, international championships. So international championships are a new event, but they effectively, I would say, replace the old nationals we had. Nationals basically have been done with. Some countries, as I mentioned, could run them potentially if they have no other organized play support, but you shouldn't expect basically nationals anymore, and they're basically replaced with these international events. So Pokemon's announced that there are going to be 4 throughout the year, 1 in each rating zone. There's a lot of good pricing and a lot of championship points on the line and prestige for these events. So there's actually a decent chance that there will be trips and stipends for all the internationals for top players as well. The reason why I say that is because big news, the first international championship has actually already been announced. It's going to take place on December 9th through 11th in 2016 in London, England at Excel London, which, might be kind of mind-blowing because that's only 2 weeks after the Sun and Moon release in Europe. But, this is going to be a huge event. It's going to actually use 2017 rules in Sun and Moon, so you can imagine it's kind of going to be a mess. Everyone's going to try to train their team very quickly to understand the metagame. It's going to be so underdeveloped, but it's really exciting because there are going to be a ton of the best players from around the world. To me, this is like a mini Worlds, honestly. There are even players from Japan who are considering going. And one of the most exciting things is that Pokemon is actually paying some of the top players from 2016 to travel to this event through trips and stipends, which is why it's very likely that they will do the same for future events. And so at the beginning of the season is really important because you want to accumulate those championship points to stay in contention for potential trips and stipends. I believe it's top 4 get free trips to this event in each age division, top 8 get money basically. And so yeah, I mean, it's going to be really crazy. I'm still considering going. It doesn't work out too well with my college schedule, so I'm trying to see if I can work my way around it, but it's going to be absolutely nuts. I think it's just going to be so much hype. I mean, it's the first real Sun and Moon VGC tournament, and they're going to be some of the best players around the world, a ton of the best players around the world, actually. And if you're interested in any of that action, it's going to be streamed when it does happen at Pokemon.com/live. So that's the first international championship that's been announced. We're still waiting on the other 3, and yeah, keep your eyes open for that because these events are going to be so big. I effectively see them as mini world championships because previously, you would go to the nationals within your country and there wouldn't be very many players from other regions. Now it seems like Pokemon really wants top players to travel to all these different countries for these big events, and they're even paying for players to do so. So this next season is going to be really interesting because we're going to have high level gameplay basically throughout the year, not just at Worlds or not just within a country. And so for me, I'm really excited to be part of that. I'm really excited to watch and compete in these tournaments. So earlier I mentioned that these tournaments have a huge championship point payout. As you can see here, that indeed is the case. I would expect at least, 400 plus players at these events. I mean, when Sun and Moon come out, like, you'd imagine it's just going to be so hype. US Nationals last year was 400. Maybe not that high. I don't know. I can see it breaking the 256 mark. Maybe a little bit struggle to get to the 500 mark. But you do see the breakdown here. It's a lot of points, especially if you're getting in the top 32. I mean, 120 was like, top 4 at a regional. So getting that much from a top 32 finish is a big deal. Obviously, that's not easy. These events are going to have so much top talent, and finishing anywhere near the top is going to be a very impressive feat, but it's a lot of points there, especially if you can get yourself to many. I should know, I think I didn't mention it, or I didn't write it in that slide, but the best finish limit is actually 4. So if you can somehow travel to all 4 of these international events, then you can just get championship points from all of them, and one finish isn't going to replace another because there are only 4 of these events. And so that is a nice way, but obviously you still have to perform at these events. One thing Pokemon's doing this season is they're saying, okay, even if you travel to these events, you still need to be able to put up the performances, because let's say I go to 4 internationals, but I just get let's say top 64 at 2 and then top 128 at the other 2. That's 240 points, and it's a good amount of points, right? But you still need 500 to qualify for Worlds from North America. So you have to consider that 500 is the bar, and that's kind of what you're playing for. And so you have to have a couple of really good finishes to basically qualify for Worlds this year. And I'll go a little bit more into Worlds qualification really, really soon, but you can see the breakdown here: 5, 400, 300, 240. I mean, you're getting 3-digit numbers for top 32. It's a big deal. So in terms of pricing, it looks pretty similar to regionals pricing, but a little bit better. I really don't see these events having only 33 to 64 players, at least in Masters. I definitely expect the 227 mark to be broken. So you see that money does go all the way down to top 8, which is really exciting. Once again, not like Worlds where it's like top 16, unless we do get 500 plus players. So basically, once again, few players are really going to be winning money, but those that do are going to be able to make quite a nice amount, especially first and second place. And if we do have 500 plus, I mean, that's crazy, because 5K for international is pretty awesome. Basically, these tournaments are to encourage top level play throughout the year instead of just the World Championships every year, and I think that makes this season really interesting, because previously we had one big international event. Everyone travels to Worlds, and that's the premier event of the year. Now we have 4 international championships and Worlds, and so Worlds is obviously the event of the year to win, but these internationals are going to have a lot of kind of prestige on the line. Obviously pricing is pretty solid. I think just like the hype from Sun and Moon is going to make viewership really high, so there's a lot of kind of just bragging rights, prestige, and ability to say you were able to beat all these amazing players, especially because top players from each region are now going to be represented because Pokemon's paying for their travel. So that's a breakdown for internationals. You're probably like, what the heck is he talking about? He's mentioned championship points so much. He's mentioned World so much. I'm so confused. Basically, this is how you qualify for Worlds. You need to reach that amount of championship points in your respective rating zone and your region. So pretty easy to read this chart, but let's say I'm a senior in Europe. I need 400 championship points. I think these numbers are subject to change, so we could see them get higher or lower if Pokemon decides to, but as of right now, I think Pokemon's relatively content with where they are. If you're a master in US or Canada, which a lot of players probably watching this video are, you're going to need 500 championship points, 450 your seniors, etc. You can read the chart for yourself. But if you're from Japan or South Korea, then you have to compete in the circuits within those countries because they're not with the kind of play Pokemon circuit. But basically, your goal is to reach the amount of points that your region requires you to, and your division. So this isn't any different from last year or the year before, or I think the year before too as well. But you basically just want a lot of points. You need to hit that limit. Even if you have 499, that is not going to be enough. You have to break that limit. And basically, if you're trying to qualify for Worlds, if you want to make it to the World Championships this year and compete, you need to aim for that amount. So set that in your mind right now. So Worlds isn't actually just day 1. Earlier, you saw the amount of points you needed to make it into Worlds, and basically, that's called the CP bar. If you get enough points, or past that amount of points, you get free entry into day 1. Now, there's actually multiple days of competition. Day 2 is also a thing, and what day 2 is, it's basically a buy from day 1. So if you're good enough to get a day 2 invite, you don't have to play in day 1 at all. You just get to watch from the sidelines, enjoy some food on the side, get to hang out in the city, maybe not stress out as much, and you basically skip the whole first day of competition and automatically compete in day 2, whereas a significant amount of players are automatically eliminated from day 1 as they compete through it. So there's day 2 as well, and you can actually get a day 2 invite. Similar to previous years, day 2 invites are given to the top players from each respective region. Excuse me. I believe it's actually increased in Latin America and Asia Pacific. I think previously it was 4. Now it's top 8 from those regions. So top 8 from US and Canada, top 16 from Europe, those are still the same, and then top 8 from Latin America and Asia Pacific. Another nice thing, if you are in with those top numbers, you actually get free travel and housing for Worlds, and that's a big deal. My brother and I, we've been able to get these invites a couple of times in the past, and it's really nice. You get to visit the city for free, you get to stay there and in the main hotel that the tournament's typically at or connected to, and you just stress out a little bit less. Now, obviously, this year, Wolfie Glick was able to win Worlds, and he was a day 1 competitor, so it's not like you need day 2, but, day 2 is definitely a goal for a lot of top players who want to stress a little bit less about their day 1 play. So, at this point, I've shown you the championship points, I've shown you how it breaks down for events. You're probably like, wow, this number is so high, or how the heck do I even qualify for Worlds? What is the possible combination or permutation of numbers I need to qualify for Worlds? These were 2 examples I pulled from 2 awesome Twitter users, thanks to Nails and to Rafa for tweeting these. These are just sample ways you can make Worlds. There's obviously an infinite amount of combinations you can use, but this just shows that it's not like you need to win every event to basically make Worlds. So let's say you live in a region where there are premier challenges, there are mid-seasons, regionals, or not regionals. Regionals you're going to have to travel to regardless of where you are. Basically, even if you're just getting top 32 and 16 finishes at regionals and top 64 at internationals, you can still easily make Worlds if you perform well on the premier challenge and mid-season level. So let's say you're from a region that doesn't have many local premier challenges and mid-seasons. Worlds is still definitely doable. You just need to perform at a better level on the regionals and international events. For example, top 32 at internationals and then top 8s at regionals as opposed to, say, 16 and 32. So basically the way I see this season is you can definitely make it to Worlds. If you're living in a region where there are a lot of events, that's naturally better for you. Even if you're not, you should definitely at least try to go to an international because there's so many points on the line there. Regionals are going to be really important because there's a high concentration of points there as well. So don't get discouraged if there are not that many events near you because it's still very, very doable. You just need to be able to plan your events well in terms of scheduling regionals and internationals. So making day 1, I think in Masters in North America, at least specifically, it's definitely harder than last year. We had, I think, 150 plus players qualify last year, which was kind of an absurd amount given that the previous year it was 40, and the previous year before that was like 16, and the year before that was 12. Excuse me. But now it's just, I think Pokemon's trying to decrease the number a little bit from that 150. I'd imagine maybe 50, 60 players can reach this mark. Obviously, you have 8 players making it into day 2. So I think day 1 was very, very big last year. Pokemon wants to make it a little bit smaller, but definitely doable, especially in North America. I think the bars might be a little bit higher in other regions that I'm not as familiar with. But yeah, I think knowing this information, you definitely want to set a goal for yourself right away. So basically a TLDR, TLW, or TLDW for anyone who did not follow along or just wanted a quick summary of everything. Or maybe you were just from the beginning of the video and you're like, screw it, I'm just going to skip to the key summary. First of all, VGC 2017 rules start December 1st with Sun and Moon. So keep that in mind. Second of all, best finish limits have increased for a lot of events. Regionals and MSSs are separate. Premier challenges and online tournaments are separate as well. So there's a lot more ways you can earn points basically right now and a lot less interference. That also means, there could be more CP inflation this year. But yeah, basically more events are open. Pokemon wants you to travel to more events. Not necessarily the case, especially if you're a top player, but the opportunity is open for you. There's a lot better pricing for regionals, better than it's ever been, and internationals, new level event offering high level play and very, very competitive, pricing on the top level. As mentioned earlier, there are 4 international championships. The first one has been announced. That's going to be in London from December 9th to 11th, playing VGC 2017 rules, not 2016 rules. That's going to be streamed on Pokemon.com/live, and because there are travel and stipends from the first international, it's very likely that Pokemon continues to offer top players from the 2017 season travel to top events. So you really want to focus on having a good early season or just kind of beating out players and focusing on getting as high on the leaderboard as possible, because that really could pay dividends and allow you to go to future continental or international events, as they call them. And one of the biggest points, Worlds is basically harder to qualify for now. For reference, the CP bar last year was 350. This year it's 500. So obviously it's gone by 150 points. But of course, another big point is that mid-seasons are now a thing separate from regionals in terms of best finish limits. So that's another way to get a lot of points. And, online competitions, no best finish limit to those. Also another great way to get points. But I do want to note that with all this structure, championship points are really heavily rewarded towards the top performing players, and I really like Pokemon doing this. Basically, it felt like, people always complain, oh, it's so pay to win, you just go to all these events, and yeah, you get a Worlds invite, but it's not that easy. Like, even getting top 64 to a continental or international event could potentially be difficult given the amount of skill level that's going to be at these events, and so it's definitely no breeze, and you see that at regionals. Like, it's a pretty steep drop-off, even mid-seasons and premier challenges after you get out of the top 4 or top 8, so you really need to have a couple of good finishes at some pretty solid events. Obviously, we saw a breakdown earlier here in terms of, you don't even need to get beyond top 16 at any of the big events, but of course those assume you can do very well at the premier challenges and mid-seasons in your area. So once again, infinite amount of combinations. Just look and kind of make a plan for yourself based off where you live, because it is harder this year for sure. So what now? I've given you all this information. You're probably like, oh my god, I don't even know what to process. If any of this has interested you, any of this, and you want to play Pokemon competitively in real life, you can already do that because there are premier challenges that are happening all around the world currently. There are also regionals that are about to happen very shortly, as you saw from the list earlier, so definitely look into traveling to any of those. And the UK International event has already been announced, so a lot of players are already considering booking a trip over there because it's going to be one of the craziest tournaments in VGC history, but I think it's going to be very fun and crazy hype to watch. Also, wait for more information on future tournaments. There's still a lot up in the air, such as the other international events and mid-season showdowns. Those are going to be up on Pokemon.com, so, like I said in the next point, constantly check Pokemon.com. Event Locator is actually a really good resource. That's in the description below, but that just allows you to find any tournaments within your areas. So, yeah, you definitely want to use that to basically try to get to an event or two. You definitely want to set a season goal and plan for yourself as well this year, whether it's making day 1 of Worlds, making day 2 of Worlds, or whether it's just, top cutting event. I think setting a season goal is always really helpful. Now almost all the information is out there for you to really figure things out. So definitely super helpful. I always try to set a season goal. Now the season goal is really like winning Worlds, but yeah, definitely aim for something because that just makes planning a lot easier. And I would suggest just kind of planning into events currently. Obviously, there's still a lot of information that's not released, especially on international regionals. So keep your eyes open for that. Remember that 2017 or VGC 2017 starts in I say just over a month. I'm pretty sure I meant just over 2 months, but yeah, that's gonna be happening pretty darn soon. And as of right now, we're still under VGC 2016. If you don't like 2016 at all, you don't want to play, that's cool. You don't need to. There are not that many events left for it, and then when 2017 starts, you're not going to be that far behind at all, really. So it's cool, but I think watching past VGC matches, regardless of what format they are, is a great way to learn and get better as we're in this somewhat downtime between 2016 and 2017. And finally, get Sun and Moon as soon as you can and start training because that's going to be really helpful. You really want to just start breeding, getting Pokemon in game, knowing all the Pokemon, all valuable information. Finally, a list of resources. All of these are in the description below, but these kind of break down what I just covered in text form. So if you want to learn more about everything I talked about, you're like, man, screw Cybertron, I'm just going to read, I don't want to watch this video, then check these links out for sure. I think they are very helpful. Definitely recommend the last one, find events, for people who don't know how to kind of find local events around them. Can be really difficult, so use that link a lot, bookmark it right now. All the other links, very important as well, as, in terms of qualifying for Worlds, the CP breakdown for all the events, new information on regionals, internationals, etc. So all these links in the description below. Anyway, I kind of just rambled on for 25 minutes or so, but I hope you guys find this video helpful or informative. If you have any questions at all, you're still very confused about any of this, definitely let me know in the comments below, and I'll try, or on Twitter, and I'll try to get back to you as quickly as possible. Overall, I've seen a lot of negative complaints about the new tournament structure, but in my opinion, I think it's pretty great. I think last year, it was so easy to qualify for Worlds. This year, I think it's still very manageable. I think some regions, once again, maybe it's a little bit too high, but all in all, it's really promising, and I think Sun and Moon is just going to help this game grow so much, and I can't wait to continue making content and, just doing stuff for it. It's been a little bit dead on this channel in the last couple of weeks, but I promise you, once Sun and Moon comes out, it's going to be a crazy ride for all of us, something that, no one could really imagine. So, thank you for watching this video. Hopefully you found it helpful in the slightest, and yeah, I hope it can guide you into getting into VGC. Definitely leave a like if you did enjoy it and send it your way to anyone else who may be interested. And I'll see you guys really soon for some more content. Oh my god, I can't wait for Sun and Moon and VGC 2017. Anyway, that's going to be it for this one. I'll see you guys next time. All right, peace.